Hey everybody, welcome back around to the Blog and Grill. I'm your host Doug here with your video blog for October 13th, 2014. Great blog planned for you today. We're going to talk about NASCAR at Charlotte as it got a little wild. College football as we look at our top four thus far in the college football playoff. Also, we will look at the Major League Baseball playoffs. But first, let's get to the NFL. My picks for the week, my 5 picks. 2-2 so far. I got San Francisco tonight, -3.5 against the Rams on the road on Monday Night Football. So that should be a good game to watch for sure. It is time to go around the Shield. Last night, Eagles shut out the Giants 27-0 on Sunday Night Football. Jay Cutler comes back for the Bears in a big game. They beat the Falcons 27-13. Dallas, behind Tony Romo's 250 yards, stifles the Seattle Seahawks. Dallas wins 30-23. Arizona, Carson Palmer returns with 2 touchdown passes. Arizona over Washington 30-20. Phillip Rivers and the Chargers get by a team that played well in the Oakland Raiders. Derek Carr throws 4 touchdown passes, but it's not enough as the Chargers win 31-28. Carolina and Cincinnati tie 37-all. After overtime, Andy Dalton has a good game, but the defense gives up too much. Tennessee holds off Jacksonville late after an onside kick recovery. Tennessee wins 16-14. Joe Flacco throws 5 touchdown passes in the first half. Baltimore beats Tampa Bay 48-17. Geno Smith has a good first half, but the defense gives it up later. Denver beats the Jets 31-17. Detroit takes down Minnesota 17-3 behind a very solid performance by the Detroit Lions defense. New England and Tom Brady looking good. They're now 4-2 as they beat Buffalo 37-22. Brian Hoyer looking good in Cleveland. The Browns take down the Steelers 31-10. Aaron Rodgers, a late touchdown pass. Green Bay 27, Miami 24. And finally, our Thursday night game, which was Indianapolis 33, Houston 28. Just a little update as we're almost halfway through the year. Division winners update. I've picked 4 out of the 8 that are currently leading. I picked to win. So right around half, not great, but we'll see what happens. We'll talk more football on Wednesday with our power rankings. NASCAR at Charlotte, Kevin Harvick gets the win, but that is far from the storyline. We have drivers up against it as they head to the fastest track at Talladega this next weekend. It is going to be exciting to watch for sure. Joey Logano still sits on top of the points. Harvick in second, Kyle Busch third, Newman fourth, Edwards fifth, Gordon sixth, Hamlin seventh, and Casey Kane, the last guy in at 8th, just 1 point ahead of 9th place Brad Keselowski. And then it gets interesting. Matt Kenseth. Brad Keselowski is 10th. He is currently 19 points out of a transfer spot. And Jimmy Johnson and Dale Earnhardt Jr. are currently 26 points out of transferring to the next round. So they're going to have to go out and win. The big story after the race is Brad Keselowski. He made some enemies of Tony Stewart, Matt Kenseth, and Denny Hamlin. Matt Kenseth, of course, pounded on him a little bit in the garage. We'll see if NASCAR hands down any suspensions to this. I don't think Kenseth or Hamlin or Stewart will get a fine. I think most likely Brad Keselowski will, just because he was doing a lot of dumb stuff after the race and doing some stuff that was questionable, running over cars on pit road and just ripping through stuff. So we'll see what NASCAR does, but Brad Keselowski likely will face a suspension. College football picks, not bad over the weekend. We finished at 2-3. We're now 12-23 overall, and it's just so urgent with all these playoff positions switching around. We see a lot of urgency in the college football world, and it's just going to get crazier, okay? That's what we're going to see. Just overreaction to a lot of games, and we'll see what happens going down the stretch, but we have some good games coming up next week. And now it's time to reveal my top 4 in college football. Coming in at number 1, I'm going to have Mississippi State, 6-0, playing well, took down Auburn last week at home. We'll see what they can do next week as they will be taking on a decent Kentucky team that's now 5-1. That game will be a road game for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. All right, second game we have, or second place, I have Florida State 6-0, beat Syracuse, looking well. Jameis Winston throwing the ball pretty good. They have a good test against the Notre Dame team this week down in Tallahassee. We'll see if Notre Dame can make a statement, as I think Notre Dame is just on the outside looking in and needs to make a run. Florida State, number 2. Number 3, Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is probably the best defensive team in the country. I like their defensive front. I think probably 7 of their guys could be NFL talent. And they have probably the easiest of the top 4 teams this week as they take on a 3-3 Tennessee team, but their quarterback Dan Worley can still whip the ball around. So we'll see what happens with that. And finally, my number 4 team are the Baylor Bears. Baylor 6-0. They look strong against a good TCU team. Their offense is electric as they erased a 21-point lead with 11 minutes to go to win that game. And I'm taking them at number 4, and they will face West Virginia this week. A tough team. Clint Trickett, a good quarterback. West Virginia 4-2. We'll see what happens this week. But Baylor's my number 4 team. And my 2 teams on the outside, Notre Dame and Auburn, I could put either one 5 or 6. They're my 2 teams that are currently sitting outside the playoff picture. MLB playoff update. Royals have now won 2 straight as they're now up 2-0 on the Baltimore Orioles. Game 3 is tonight in Kansas City. Bruce Chen versus Jeremy Guthrie. It's going to be a good game to watch. Interesting comment by Jared Dyson, the Kansas City Royals player. He says the series will not go back to Baltimore. We'll see what happens. A little bit of some cockiness coming out in some of these guys as Kansas City has looked like a very strong team. The other series, the NLCS, will have Game 3 in that series tomorrow in San Francisco. Cardinals and Giants tied up at a game apiece. Last night we saw Colton Wong, the rookie for the Cardinals, hit the walk-off home run. I think the bigger story out of that game has to be the strained oblique suffered by Yadier Molina. You're going to see Tony Cruz or A.J. Przinsky now behind the plate. You might see A.J. with John Lackey on the mound. They played together in Boston, so we'll see what happens there. Game 3 tomorrow at 4:07. It'll be John Lackey versus Tim Hudson. I will probably take Lackey in that game and the Cardinals to go up 2-1. All right, so we'll be back on Wednesday. We'll do our NFL power rankings as they will be shaken up for sure. We'll have our Heisman Watch update. We'll talk MLB playoffs. We'll start to do some NBA stuff as NBA is getting closer. The big news out of the NBA today was that Kevin Durant will miss a month with a Jones fracture in his foot, kind of the outside bone on his foot. We'll see how that affects, and we'll talk about them a little bit in the game on the blog on Wednesday. Always remember to check me out on sportsmindednews.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at YankeeBaller415. Comment, question, subscribe to my page. Thanks for tuning in to the blog, Andrew. I will be back on Wednesday. Have a good start to your week.